Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet a brilliant entrepreneur who's determined to change the way companies train their employees. His incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
So one of my guilty pleasures is I love watching The Office with Michael Scott. And it seems like in almost every episode, there's a meeting in a conference room and Michael Scott is training them on something. And there are jokes, it goes off the rails. I'm not sure that anybody learns anything. So that's the wrong way to do it. My next guest is going to explain the right way to do it. Don Kersting is in the studio. He's a founder and principal with Kersting Creative. Thanks for coming on the show.
You bet, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Well, I want people to know you because you have worked with some very large companies. So to tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I have been in learning and development training, whatever term you want to use there, for the better part of 25 years. I have spent time with Texas Instruments, Baylor Scott and White Health, Ascension, and most recently at McKesson, a Fortune 7 company here in the DFW area, as Vice President of Learning.
Wow. And then you decided to go out on your own. What did you learn in that quarter century of learning and development?
I have learned that there's a lot of companies out there who are doing it really poorly, trying to educate their employees, like you mentioned, in office style, like putting an executive on a stage next to a potted plant, right? That's not learning and development. That's not teaching anyone. That's just angering the people that are in the room. So I've learned through 25 years of experience how to develop really, really well-cultured, well-curated learning that's really engaging and creative, and people change their behavior at the end of it.
Yes, I'm a big fan of your LinkedIn post. You did a post recently that went fairly viral. Let's go ahead and pull that up. And as we scroll down, this is a younger Don Kersting. Tell us about this picture we're about to see.
Yeah, so this was back when I had a lot more hair, and I was much younger, lived in the Dallas area, and I had just started a learning and development firm 25 years ago. The difference between that Don that you see and the Don you have sitting next to you is that I have 25 years of experience and I know what I'm doing. And I know how people learn. I know how to apply adult learning theory and instructional design to an organization's learning problems, training problems, as opposed to that one.
And the post went viral, hundreds and hundreds of comments. I mean, great job. What do you think was it about the post that resonated with people?
Yeah, I think it was a couple things. One was that there's just a transparency and a vulnerability. Many people have gone through layoffs before and have been faced with the challenge of what I do next. You know, there's always that next step. And for me, it was starting my own company. But I think the other thing was that there are so many people out there who work for an organization that they see really bad learning and development, right? Again, that office model that we just mentioned, or maybe really boring e-learning, or video that they have to sit through once every 6 months. All that's really bad, and my company can really change the way employees or customers are educated, and we can do it in a really creative way.
You were telling me a story right before the show started about Whirlpool. Why don't you share that one?
Yeah, so one of the customers that I worked for in the past was Whirlpool, a company obviously we all know. We probably have many of their appliances in our homes. I developed a set of e-learning courses for them on the topic of innovation, a brand new initiative they're rolling out. We saw great success with that. It was rolled out to leadership, really high accolades, but that's just one example of us taking a topic that they want disseminated across their entire population, creating an education piece that's online, and so they don't have to file hundreds of people into a classroom.
Yes.
They actually can go online and take it, and it's really engaging and instructionally sound.
And when you're working with a company that large, there's a lot of pressure on you. I mean, are you nervous because you've got a bunch of critics in the audience? If the training falls flat, you lose. So what have you learned about the secret to dialing it in?
I think the secret to dialing it in is that you really are in tune with the mission, vision, and values of the organization, and that you work with the great stakeholders that have been given to you by the organization, so that I know, hey, what are the objectives that they're trying to educate? What are the end goals? Who's the learner, right? Because all of the answers to these questions that I ask will help determine the type of learning that we develop and how it's developed, and maybe some nuanced interactivity within the course. And so I really work with those stakeholders to really zero in on what the company needs.
And if there is anything good that happened from COVID, it's that all of us learned to be on the computer and get our information from the computer. So
Absolutely.
What did that do to the field of e-learning?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, following COVID, many of us are now much more comfortable with taking education online, right? So whether that's your company-based education, whether that's your defensive driving online, it can be any number, online education through MBAs or graduate programs. All of us now seem to have a different level of comfort when it comes to online education. And so we're really seeing online learning, video-based learning, e-learning in that term that most people use, it's growing exponentially.
We've got some video from our library of just different e-learning courses. And Don, talk about how you custom your training to the company and the due diligence you exercise on the front end.
Yeah, so I like to say that at our heart we're a consulting firm, right? We work with the clients to say, again, what is your end goal for your learning and development? Who are you trying to train? How long do you want this to take? Tell me about the demographics of the end user, right? So depending on the answers to those questions will really determine the outcome. So for example, if I'm trying to train 18 to 22-year-olds, I'm probably going to use really short video-based education as opposed to an audience of PhDs, which may be more text-based. Right. So all of the answers to these questions help us really zero in on what the customer needs.
And learning their language, because every company has a different culture. Some call it their family reunion when they have a conference, and some people call it a conference. Yeah. So I love that attention to detail. Why don't you describe your perfect client?
I think my perfect client would really be that medium-sized company, right? 500, 1,000 employees or more, that there's a definite educational need, whether that's their employees and or their leaders, or maybe their customers. Like there's a definite need to educate their some group on something, whether it's a new policy, a new procedure, a product, a soft skill, a technical skill, it may be anything. But they don't have the budgetary luxury to fund a full learning and development department. But they do have some dollars available for something. And that's where I can come in and provide real value to that organization to say, here's the strategic value of what learning and development can bring, and let me help you develop something that will change the behavior of that group that you're targeting.
And very affordable compared to some of the big boys out there.
Absolutely, yeah. If you were to go to a KPMG, an Accenture, an EY, vastly more expensive than what we could offer.
Outstanding. So in the final minute or two, I want you to look into that camera on the left and talk to the person who might need to hire you.
Well, here's what I would say is that I think there are so many organizations out there that just simply don't know what they're doing when it comes to learning and development. I think they have a definite need to educate someone and to really have a really well done piece of education, whether that's, again, for your employees to develop them, to continue to build the skills of that employee base, or maybe you have a customer who simply does not have the knowledge to use your product, right? Or maybe they're confused on how to use your product. And so let me help you develop something that will educate, again, your employees or your customer, and let's change their behavior.
Outstanding. Mic drop moment. Thank you so much. We're going to end with his website, which is kerstingcreative.com. The great John Kersting. Thanks for coming on the show.
You bet. Thanks, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.